Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Verdict. On today's episode, we'll discuss the next Netflix original show that's taken America by storm, Stranger Things, right after this.
Tiara Hall.
I'm Patrick Jimenez.
And I'm Devontae Banks. Now, the supernatural genre was revitalized with the show Stranger Things in July of 2016. Now, season 1 captured the attention of Americans with its 80s nostalgia and the talented cast. It was directed by the Duffer Brothers. Stranger Things season 1 received 18 Emmy nominations, including Outstanding Drama Series. But season 2 comes with us, being described as a determined desire to return to normalcy in Hawkins, and plans to focus on the bigger mythology of Will's disappearance. The characters are going to face different kinds of horror in contrast to the monsters we've seen in season 1. Without further ado, here's the trailer for Stranger Things season 2.
On Halloween night, Will saw a sort of shadow. Maybe all of this is happening for a reason.
These are not nightmares. It's happening. And it all leads back to here.
This thing.
You said it was all in his head. And what have you done? Nothing. What is wrong with my boy?
I don't understand. 11 what? She always did. It's like it's reaching into Hawkins. If anyone knows how to destroy this thing, it's Will.
Oh my God.
Don't you think it's weird how we only seem to hang out when the world's about to end?
It's not like it was before. It's grown.
It's Judgment Day. Which is why we need as much help as we can get. Is anyone there? Anyone?
You should go now. It's almost here.
You still have that bat?
Bat? What bat?
One with the nails.
After seeing this trailer, is the world going to be taken by storm like they were in season 1? Personally, the way I feel, I wasn't taken by storm. See, the thing is, but hold on, before you guys say anything bad about it, I thought season 1 was really good. I thought it was discovery, because it was something new. It was something I wasn't expecting. Now, thing is, I actually enjoyed this way more than season 1. But this season isn't really like a big bombastic season, even though big events do happen. I feel like this season is more of a subdued season in a really great way, because I feel like this season is a more important character study of who's in the town of Hawkins. Don't you guys agree?
Yeah, I think with all the characters that they have, especially what they established in the first season, I think coming back for season 2, it was neat because it was like, okay, what can they add to the mythology that they already created with the first, and how can we make these characters grow? I think this season had a hard time at the beginning starting up, just because even the first season felt like that too. I feel like it didn't really start picking up until episode 4, when the snowball starts rolling and then we find out what's going on, who's pairing up, what's going to get done. But overall, by the end of it, I think I enjoyed it just as much as the first. I don't think it's better, but I was intrigued. Next episode. So it won me over. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you there. I enjoyed this season a lot, but I didn't enjoy it more than the first season. There was just a lot of questions I had. Like, we'll get to that later, but you develop favorites after you watch a first season of a show. Mm-hmm. You develop favorites, but then this season they're like, okay, we know you have your favorites, but we're going to put the attention on somebody else this season. We're going to make you like somebody else. And also break your heart a little bit when it comes to Will's character, but we're not gonna go into that yet.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I have to disagree with you on that one.
Why?
Because all right, I feel like the first season was big and bold, right? Yeah. And this season, I feel like it's better to have a more intimate character study, because it would have been easy for them to try to go even bigger. But I like that they went smaller, and I like they focused on other people, like Finn Wolfhard, who plays Mike. He was our main guy the first season. Yeah. He was the person who was our window on the world. He was the emotional journey we followed. But in my opinion, thematically, it made sense that he wouldn't be our emotional center, because he himself is, I'm not going to spoil season 1 for those who haven't seen it, but because of the events of season 1, he's not really in a great place when the season starts. Plus, I really like the fact that Lucas, Dustin, and Steve Harrington are the 3 characters who have the main emotional arcs this season. I really enjoy that fact, because the season is setting up to have 11 have the emotional arc next season, but I do enjoy those 3 characters who, in any other show or movie, those guys would be the supporting characters. So I do like the fact that it's like, what would supporting characters do in a very extraordinary situation, which I thought season 2 explored perfectly.
Are you referring to the older siblings as the supporting characters, or who are you talking about as supporting
I'm talking about specifically Steve Harrington, Lucas, and Dustin.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those 3, they would normally be the supporting characters.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess so. But I was thinking more like, we learned a lot more about Mike's sister this season too, and her boyfriend, and who she has interest in now, possibly. They really didn't even, you know what? We're not going to get into that. Again, that's a spoiler. There are some books that were open and then closed, like before we even got to figure out what they were. But anyway.
She's also a teenage girl. But
right.
She's acting like a teenage girl would in this situation.
But they tease you a lot in this season with her whole love triangle, but nothing happens. Okay. Anyway.
I wouldn't say nothing happens, but we'll get to that later.
I kind of feel like with the whole, what I really got from the show was just like the underlying message was love, because it was like, no matter what they went through, no matter how far away they seemed from reality, there was always those characters to try to bring him back down and ground him. Especially there's a scene with Will and his mother and his brother that was really touching. I thought Will's acting in this, or the character of Will, he's always this timid character from the first season. We didn't really see him much, so this was our time to see how do all these characters deal with something crazy a year later. Yeah. I thought that was really neat, and I thought they did a really good job. And when Will breaks down emotionally, it hits you. You're like, oh, this kid has a lot to show and to give. He even says it in the story that he feels like he's frozen. Yeah. And I feel like with with Mike being in the back seat, or the back burner kind of, and having the supporting cast kind of pick up. But the thing was, they were all really interesting. I thought Steve Harrington, the character of Steve, started off as a really selfish character, and then they introduced this new character in season 2 named Billy. Yeah. Who every time you see him, you kind of cringe, because he's going to do something bad. Just a bad dude, he has no redeeming quality other than the fact.
I would say he has.
Other than the fact that you understand where he comes from.
Yeah.
You understand why he is the way he is, but it doesn't give you any sympathy. It's more empathy. It's okay, I understand that's why you do what you do, but you're still a terrible person.
I don't know. I think Mike's mom would see some redeeming qualities in Billy's character. You don't know we'd be able to watch it if you watch the show. No, but speaking on that, I really did enjoy all the new characters this season. And one of the things I enjoyed is it shows everyone's fully faceted. No one's trying to be a jerk for no reason. And so we have a couple. First, I'm going to run through. We have a new scientist this season. Forgetting the name of the actor. He's played by the dad from Whiplash. I love that guy on Whiplash. He was awesome here. Because, look, basically, he's very plain with it. He's like, look, I'm a scientist. Yeah, I may have to do some morally questionable things, but I'd rather not. Which I think was pretty reasonable by his character standards. Everything Billy does makes sense. He's not really doing things that are random. And like, I feel like there are hints of certain parts of his personality that we'll talk about in spoiler review, but I think Billy is going to end up finding out a different part of himself in next season. We'll get into that. I don't know if you got those vibes from Billy, if you don't know what I'm talking about.
I think he, like I said, like when they have this arc, Steve's arc, which was selfish, to this season where he's like the most selfless person. I think Bill, like I said, they could redeem him, but just the fact of who he is and how he handles things, I think he's along the lines of Henry from It.
Yeah.
I remember like seeing the parallels, like he's a jerk, he's a terrible bully, but he's also, then they show the father and how they have their interaction. And I think he's just, I think the Duffer Brothers said they wanted a villain who wasn't a creature, that was a human.
Yeah.
Like that was just bad just because that's just who he is.
Oh, but like here's the thing. I don't think he did. Now, what he did was jerkish, but I don't think he was necessarily evil. Because like, all right, like for example, like the character like you're talking about, like in It, like he was like an actual trying to murder them. Like the character Billy, he's a jerk. He's like, for example, he's very racist. He breaks like Max's things whenever he's angry with her, and like he starts fights with people. But it's nothing that would go past what someone would do in high school as a bully. I feel like Henry, it would have gone way farther than Billy would have gone. I think Billy was just more of a jerk who like kind of had a like who basically like wouldn't take things too far.
I think he was also needed because it was kind of like dethroning Steve, because Steve was like the cool kid. He was the popular guy the first season, and then they introduced Billy, who's like this. He's like self-absorbed kind of 80s jock. Yeah, like you can't trust. In these movies, don't trust the mullet because they're jerks. Like all these villains that they're doing. But I mean, overall, like we haven't talked about him yet, but Sean Astin plays Bob, who is Winona Ryder's character's like love interest, and you kind of like wondering, but he was awesome. I think having him, especially because he was a Goonie. Yeah, and they even kind of throw like a little reference there. I thought that was really neat how they kind of like, it was small. I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but there was a little call out to the Goonies, which was really cool.
Yeah, and Sean Astin's character was great because I feel like since, pretty much everyone in town, which I thought was pretty cool, either knows what happened or they're smart enough to figure things out, even like, because we have Max as well, who's a new character. Like, even like if they're incredulous about some of the details, they at least like know the overarching plot, which is one thing I really like. Everyone on the show is smart. Bob is also someone who's really smart, but like he doesn't know any of this stuff. So it's great to be kind of reintroduced from it and see how a person from a different angle will see it. Because Bob, he isn't a coward. He's a nice guy. He's willing to help, but it's just one of those things where this is obviously a strange thing. Had to do it.
Let's talk about Hopper. I really liked how his character developed this season. At first, I hated him again. In the beginning of this season.
Don't say it. Don't say
it.
it.
I know, yeah. What would I?
But yeah. The character.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of troubling things about him. Like, he's mean, but it's because he has to be. Like, he has to be the tough guy because he's a sheriff, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And he has to, and it's a small town, so he has to assert his dominance all the time. But then again, you see that he is soft on the inside, and I don't know why I always look for that. Yeah. Like hard on the outside, soft on the inside. But yeah.
See, I gotta disagree with you there, though.
Why?
Because he was not mean.
What do you mean?
No. In my opinion, everything he did was something like, if you're in that situation, right? He did exactly what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
Like this character aspect. I remember the first season not really liking him after, like you don't really click with him until like we see a little bit of him, and like okay, I see where you're coming from. You care about these characters in the story. You're helping. You're aiding. And that's what I love about the show, because I feel like no matter who's introduced in the story, everyone has something to do. Yeah. Like I don't feel like anybody's there just like Sean Astin could have just been like nostalgia fanfare, like oh look, he was in the Goonies, and then just tossed, but he was a pivotal point in the story, and I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, he was a really good character. And getting back to Hopper's character, right? Because, like, all right, Tiara, because I've known you personally, and you're one of the first people who would complain or make fun of characters in horror movies for not acting smart.
Right.
Hopper, like, literally is the antithesis. Like, he's the smartest guy
Yeah.
in the entire show. He does everything to where it wouldn't be a dangerous situation. I think the reason you may be upset with Hopper is just because we don't see characters actually act smart in these situations.
Right.
But Hopper looks very clear-eyed at everything. He's like, look, if I were to help this person, that would screw over so many people.
Yeah.
So I can't help you. I'm sorry.
Actually, he does tie together the entire show, the whole season, I guess, what his actions do. But I don't know. Okay, let's talk about something besides characters. It was very icky this season. Everything was very gross. I mean, I know we had that last season too, but this season was a little nastier, just a tiny bit nastier, where I was like, okay.
Yeah, I feel like, especially, I really like the production of it. I really think that the visual effects, I mean, even though, like, the first season, I remember watching, like, the making of Stranger Things, and they said they only had one guy doing visual effects, and he was working part-time. And then when, come around to season 2, they had a full office full of visual effects artists, and they were able to do it and make it look bigger. So I think they were wanting to give it that gross, slimy, everything looks like there's like dust flying everywhere. I think that was really neat, especially like there was a grave or they were like out in I guess like it was the old junkyard, and everything was filled with fog. And, it just feels like, I think the timing of the show was right too, because it's Halloween, and I thought like the way they set everything up was really great.
And the fact that it takes place on Halloween.
Yeah.
So when you're watching it, it's kind of like, oh, that's right around the corner.
Yeah, I like how it also takes place between like 3 or 4 days for a while until, they have to jump eventually. But I was like, okay, this is the same day, isn't it? Like, that was a bit confusing. But I noticed twice where, because Will was a very important character this season, I would just say that.
I wouldn't say he was an important character.
Yes, he was.
No, he wasn't. All right.
Can I finish?
Wait.
Wait.
Let me give you my rationale first before you disagree with me.
Let me just tell you. I liked how they would, because I am, I like to nitpick with like different shots and everything. They would zoom in on the back of his neck, and you would see like the hairs raised on the back. I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now what?
All right. Now, look, Will, in my opinion, is just a catalyst for the events. In my opinion, he still isn't a complete character. We really don't know Will's like deep thoughts and motivations. The only time when we get any of that pull out of him is the scenes with his brother. And no spoilers, but his brother is barely in Hawkins this season, like in the actual city himself. So like we barely get to see like any character development with him. The only times when he's with his brother, but that's like 2 times in the show. So Will is just a catalyst, just like in the first season. Like first season, Will goes missing. Entire show has to happen. Second season, blah, blah, blah happens. Can't say it. But since blah, blah, blah happens to Will, entire town's like, oh crap, this is all going on again. Will isn't really a complete person, especially considering like most of his dialogue isn't even, I can't even say, but most of his dialogue isn't even some stuff that's about him. Most of his dialogue is about something else.
I mean, especially with all the different characters they have this season, it was really cool to see, like, we see them progress as, it's almost like, it was a season of growth, like with, because first when they're like before teenage years, and I feel like they're like smack dab right in the middle of like, they're 13, and I thought it was really neat to see the Steve and Dustin interaction, because it showed that Steve isn't just this guy who just keeps crawling back to the girl who keeps pushing him away, that he was something more, and then he found his voice, and it showed how cool he was as a character. Like, honestly, every time you see him, like, Steve, come on, man,
Yeah, that's why he's the best character in the show.
Yeah. I agree, too. I think it was really neat to see Lucas's family, see his little sister.
Right. They complained about that. That's why they had to do that.
Oh, yeah. Like, they're just one-dimensional. But, if it's a series that goes on till we see them in their 40s, who knows? Like I said, this show can go on for a while if the writing's good, like it has been. I think overall, it was, like I said, it was a show about growth. I try to think of it outside of it just being this phenomenon that we have now, which is Stranger Things, everybody's obsessed with. But it was a great character study. It was, I love the setting. I think it was brings it home, seeing all the trees like dying out and seeing the school and how it was like very like grounded. And even the neighborhoods that they shot in, I thought were really cool. Like just to keep it that grounded level, even though it's 80s, you see all those neighborhoods around here.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that his brother was barely in the town that, you know, it's supposed to take place in, because there was a lot of traveling this season. I thought that was very interesting that even the kids were traveling on their own. Like, I won't say who, but you know what I'm saying? There was a lot of scene change. Like, they didn't just only shoot it in one state, in their little small town. What is it called? Hawkins, duh. But yeah, the elementary school is called. But anyway, middle school. Yeah, they didn't just, you know, only have it take place there. Like, they even had people move from California, which I thought was weird because they never really explained. Anyway, yeah. I thought that was cool. We got a little bit of everything.
They explained why they moved.
Why they moved?
Yeah, the Californians. They explained why Maximilian moved.
We'll
talk about that
later.
review.
Yeah.
Another thing I really liked was the film references. They were amazing. From the cat hissing to remind you from Alien, but my personal favorite, and anybody who knows me, from my friends, my girlfriend, anyone knows that I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. And the Steve factor with Tom Cruise helps. So let's do a breakdown. First season, Steve doesn't know who Tom Cruise is, but Nancy has a Tom Cruise poster on her wall, right? And then Steve makes a comment just like, oh, that's just some actor, right? But this season, we see Steve as his character grows and changes. He becomes more like Tom Cruise. He even starts dressing as him. Because of the Halloween party, which is also in the trailer, he and Nancy goes as Tom Cruise and the girl's character from Risky Business. Also, his arc represents Tom Cruise in a different movie, which I'll talk about in spoiler review because to say anything else would be like a complete spoiler. But like I think just like references like that are great. It references Alien at one point. You talk about how it references the Goonies. There's even an It reference in there. Don't want to even talk about who says it, but actually, yeah, I can't talk about who says it, but it's a really good reference. Just pretty much anything Bob says is probably a reference to something. So just always bookmark whenever he's talking.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't really beat over the head with nostalgia because I think the first season it worked because it was in the 80s and it is in the 80s and it's cool to have that kind of like remember this, remember that for the ones who grew up during that time. Yeah. But I think, you know, with the second season, it needs to be something. It needs to stand on its own, and I feel like they did that. And I feel like this season, in contrast to the first, I feel like the first season had a very direct, like very like you could follow along. And this one you can too. It's really easy to follow along. You know, just everybody's doing something. So you're always getting these like funny interactions. You get these good character moments. But I feel like as a standalone piece, it really worked, man. And the more I talk about it, the more we talk about it, the more I realize like I want to watch it again. I want to watch that again, man. It was really good.
I think the reminders are pretty vague this season that it is in the 80s because they would have vote for Reagan, Bush. And then they'll have, they had like a whole portrait of Reagan, like in the office of the middle school. I was like, okay. Were they really doing that back then?
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
they showed like, you know, his parents, Mike's parents were Bush or Reagan Bush family. And then they showed Justin's family, and in the front yard showed the competitor. We didn't even know the name because it was a landslide. He won. So I thought that was really neat to show, like, especially because you see the parents, and the dad's all like, you know, Mr. like, haha, like sitcom dad.
Right.
You know, and then the mom is the more fleshed out, real person, I feel like. But
who the dad about? Mike's dad has one of my favorite lines in the show. There's a scene between him and Dustin. And I like love that. Pretty much anybody who Dustin talks to this season, like that actor is going to end up great because he's a great scene partner. Because like I think like part of what makes Steve's great is because he interacted with Dustin. Mike's dad only has one scene with Dustin, but it is so funny. Like the entire way the scene ends up going.
That was so. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I was just gonna say that was the one thing I noticed about the behind the after show was when they showed the casting tapes of, you know, all the characters. Dustin's like I was thinking like who would cast this, you know, snaggletooth little kid who talks funny, but he kills it. I don't know why. He was like my favorite now. I don't know why he wasn't before, but he's my favorite now.
The president, he's higher energy.
Yeah.
He was great. I think Mike didn't have much to do this season, which kind of bummed me out because he was so great in the first season, and so this coming around, I was hoping he would have had more character. But they called him on set. I think they called him Emo Mike.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he was kind of moping around, you know, for the first few episodes, whatever. But man, I don't know. Winona Ryder was great.
Yeah.
Like I can't get enough of her. I thought she brought it just like she did in the first season. Like, you know, she was gone forever, and she comes back in Stranger Things where you're back and you're great, and then she comes back and she kills it. Like,
oh yeah,
I want to see her again and more things too. But
I wonder if she even had to audition for this role. Like, it's Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
Definitely not. She's
Put my name on a
Winona
piece of paper. Yeah.
Like, you got it.
By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but even though Mike can have a lot of dialogue, his voice drops like halfway through the show. And it's very noticeable.
Especially when they scream.
Yeah.
There's nothing funnier to me than a kid who's like 12, 13 in these types of movies and they scream
Yeah.
because it cracks.
Yeah.
And I think it makes them real because we saw them when they were kids and now we're seeing them in this. And then next season we're going to hear them and they're going to be like, almost like, you know.
I'm not ready for them to grow up, man.
You know, it's kind of sad. They're going to go back and watch the first season just to watch that.
Right, yeah.
I'd be like, oh, look, when they were kids.
They're my kids now. I can't have them growing up. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, what were you guys' least favorite parts about this season? Because me, I'm a nitpicker. All right, like with me, if you like, I feel like the fans of episode 7, I hated so much. Now I enjoyed the season more than the first season. Episode 7 wasn't really my cup of tea. What was you guys?
I don't know. I feel like we'll have to talk about that in the spoiler.
I don't know if there was particularly any like. Well, I think it was the first episode actually that I felt like I was like, oh no, I feel like they're trying hard, but you didn't need to because everyone loves this show, you know. And I felt like, especially with the dialogue and the language, I felt like they kind of started entering in like cursing, and which is weird for me because there wasn't really that much of dialogue in that. So I don't know. If I had to give it anything, I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Well, me, I would give this show a solid like 9.5. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 as well.
All right, so when we come back, we'll be spoiling Stranger Things 2, and until then, enjoy the Comic-Con Thriller trailer for the show.
We gotta do this? Let's engage.
Hey guys, do you see the...
Will! Are you okay?
Nothing's gonna go back to the way that it was. Not really.
I saw something. What is it? I don't know. I felt it everywhere.
Darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand. Creatures crawl in search of blood to terrorize y'all's neighborhood. And whosoever shall be found
Sometimes I feel like I still see her.
must stand and face the hounds of hell and rot inside a corpse's shell.
Whatever is happening is spreading from this place.
What does it want? Not me. Everyone else. If you're out there, just please give me a sign.
Now we get back to some people's favorite and others' least favorite segment of the show, the spoiler section. This is where we talk about everything in the show, no holds barred. So if you haven't seen the show, we advise you to stop watching immediately. Otherwise, here we go. Bob died.
This is a spoiler talk, guys.
Man, yeah, it's like I feel like it's one of those things where if you're not in the group from the beginning, you're not going to be around. You know what
No,
I'm saying?
definitely not.
And if you have ill intentions, you're going down.
Yeah, but he didn't have any. So he was a nice guy.
Oh yeah,
like, the whole
it's
time.
either or. So it's like you're a good character or you're bad. You're gonna, especially if you're new. It's the same thing with all these other like Walking Dead. Like they'll have those characters and you'd be like, I kind of like. Nope, not anymore.
I was expecting Billy to bite the dust too. I'm really happy he did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
I thought Will. Like honestly, I thought Will was gonna. I didn't think he was gonna make it.
No.
Nah, I knew Will was gonna make it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, because I think with his character, especially what was happening, there was a part where you kind of get like you're questioning his mom, like kind of going overboard here. Maybe she should kind of sit down, take a nap.
And then it's like, nope, she's doing the right thing.
Dude, they throw her through the ringer through this show. Like like you see her like the first season, I just see her crying, like frantic crying. This season, she's like the overprotective mom, for rightfully so. I mean, we all know what happened to Will in the first season if you watched it.
Yeah.
So.
You should have. If you're
Yeah,
watching
don't be
this
watching this.
spoiler,
Yeah,
you should.
Yeah, you should have already seen it. By the way, I don't know if you guys got this bio from Billy, but I think Billy was totally gay. Like this scene. Wait, no, and I'll give you a hint. There have been theories on Reddit about it. So, like the way he keeps going after Steve, right? He keeps trying to fight him, and Steve is like, "Hey, man, we're cool. Like, I'm not even trying to fight you, man." Even that shower scene they have, where like he keeps going to him in the when he's in the shower. He's like, "Hey, man,
School
it's gonna
shower.
be okay." He's like, "Just remember to move your feet, all right?" And then he like turns off his shower, and Steve's like, "What is he doing?"
I think it's more of an. I mean, it could
Well,
be.
well,
and if it is that,
and his dad calls him the F word.
yeah, it could be.
But
Hey,
it's because of the time and the whole thing. He's like metrosexual. I felt like he really cared about his appearance.
But here's the thing: he said he was going on a date. I never saw him ask the girl for a phone number.
He liked whose mom was it?
yeah.
What was the girl?
No,
Nancy's mom?
No,
Yeah.
he was flirting with her to get what he wanted. But I'm saying I don't think he actually.
He didn't
liked
get what he wanted. He just wanted to flirt with her.
No, he got what he wanted.
A location?
Yeah, he got sister's address.
Okay, well, yeah.
No, I'm saying like I think the clues were there, right? And plus, he said he was going on a date with the girl. I never saw him really talk to a girl on this show. Several when he took her. I think Billy and Steve. That's
No,
gonna
yes,
be the
he
shit next
was.
season.
Wait, you're wrong.
No, because I remember the girl he took home where he's like, "Oh, this is not
Exactly.
my sister." But we don't see him do it. Look, Stranger Things, we've seen people make out. We even see the kids kiss girls on this show,
Yeah.
right? If someone kiss or someone does something like in the bedroom, we see it, all right? And Billy, we did not see any of it. I'm telling you, it's going to be Billy and Steve next season, all right? There's going to be Billy's redemption. Him and Steve are going to go out. They're going to have kids with perfect hair.
And we'll call it Stranger Things, Strange Love.
Strange love. Yeah, doctor.
Yeah, I think especially with the characters, and I think there was a part where I think it was like you said he was used for the story purpose, Will.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he's like uncontrolled, like laying on the ground, and he's like starting to shake.
That was scary.
That was terrifying. Like I felt like I was watching like a paranormal movie.
I said, "Is this The Exorcist?" Hold
Yeah,
on,
that's what it looked like.
Wait.
Because I felt like with the whole story, especially because like there's something bigger than just monsters coming out of like another dimension. It's about something more, which even at the end you're like, what is it? Like you want to know, and it's like,
But speaking of which, that final shot was amazing. Like having the camera actually turn into the upside down. That was probably one of my favorite shots, like in the TV show.
There's a scene with, I was gonna say I don't want to spoil anything, but we can. There's a scene with Harper and Eleven, and Eleven's floating, and she's like trying to close the thing, and it shows like this wide shot of them inside like that crane.
Yeah.
When they're low, and like you see like the light, and you see just everything about that. Like that, the climax of the show was so good. And Dustin thinking he's Steve, trying to pick up girls.
Yeah.
And then he realizes once he gets denied that he is not Steve.
Yeah.
And then I thought, yeah, it was really, there's a lot of good things in this season.
Actually, he does get Nancy.
He does.
He does get, so he might
That's
be Steve.
sympathy, though. That's sympathy. That's like, oh, come here.
Yeah.
We'll and that was really good actor-wise because they were able to portray that, and he automatically picked that up because it was like pity for Dustin. Couldn't find somebody, even though he looked goofy with his hair, and but he thought he was Steve.
Yeah, I think that was an amazing hairstyle.
It was great. Let's talk about something that frustrated me. The very first episode, we see 8. We didn't see her again until like episode 5.
Yeah, that's something we haven't really spoke on. There's another gifted person like 11.
Yeah.
Her name's 8.
Her sister, or
oh yeah.
yeah.
They were both in in that that facility together, and they're being like experimented on. And they start off with her, and I think for a while there was like a segment of the show where they focused on them. It almost had like an X-Men type feel.
Yeah,
like, I felt like I was watching mutants. Like, I was like, this would be a cool spin-off show.
Which is funny because Jonathan's actually going to be in the X-Men movie.
Oh
the
yeah,
guy who plays Jonathan.
if he gets to. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan may not be in next season if you guys read the news about.
He
that
might
actor.
not be in the U.S. at all for any show or movie, but yeah, because of cocaine possession. That sucks though. I wonder, like, I gotta read into it. I didn't actually read into it. I just saw the headline. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's like when these types of shows happen. This happened with another movie too. Like one of the main stars got in trouble and they kicked him off the set. It happened in Harry Potter. Even Terminator, they made Terminator, I think it was like Terminator 3 back in the day, and it's supposed to be Eddie Furlong, who kind of looks like the actor who plays Jonathan. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But he got busted, but like I think he had a DUI, and then they had to kick him off. But
I mean, it's happening with House of Cards right now because of Kevin Spacey.
That's true, but that's another show.
That's another Netflix show. What's Netflix doing?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Stay on it.
People's controversies.
All right.
To get to something we were debating about earlier. All right, let me explain to you guys why Hopper was in the right. All right.
Okay.
All right. So first off, all right, they explained to us, and Steve even tries to tell Nancy this. If you tell anybody, just as you even know what happened, you could go to jail. You could be murdered. All right. So if Hopper let anybody know about 11, they could go to jail, get murdered. Look, these are like 12 and 13-year-old kids. They cannot hold a secret. Like Dustin couldn't even hold a demodog. All right, Justin Lucas revealed the entire conspiracy what happened in season 1 to some random ginger he just met. All right, these kids aren't great at keeping secrets. So why he wanted 11 see them is obvious. All right, they won't be able to handle it. Plus, 11 was so in love with Mike. Just seeing him talking to another girl made her use her psychic powers to actively hurt that other girl.
Telekinesis powers.
Oh, her telekinesis powers to actively hurt someone.
Yeah.
You know, like, obviously, she's unstable, not ready to be in the world, and no one else is ready for her to be in there. Hopper was completely right in keeping her misguided.
That was one thing that I felt like they just it just showed. Like, I felt like that could have been a huge reveal. Like, I think because at the end of season 1, you kind of think, like, aw, Elle's dead. You know, 11 died. Obviously, it's not because they showed in the trailers can ruin a lot.
Yeah,
but
they
I
do.
think when they do introduce 11, that she's here. I felt like it could have been like a season ending shot, like Harper goes home and he sits down and then 11 sits in front of him. We're like, what? She's alive.
Right.
I felt like it could have been a better reveal. That was my only gripe with it. Was that they didn't like it just showed her. Like it's curly hair, just like Dustin, but it was like a silhouette, and I thought they could have the reveal of 11 being in present. I thought they could have handled it a little bit better.
I don't know, in my opinion, I like the way they did it.
Man, I understand too.
Because my whole thing is like it's kind of like let's look at for example, you guys watch Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones has so many things, and people were complaining about this the last few seasons, right? Where they're like, I just wish they'd get on with the story. Like, it will take a character like 3 seasons, like Daenerys, literally 4 seasons are just her, just trying to show up to Westeros. Like, so, like, most of the show is just her even trying to get onto the battlefield, all right? So I'm happy they didn't do that with the show. They're like, look, you know we're not going to kill off 11. We know we're not going to kill off 11. So why not just show her at the beginning? Then we could just move on with the story. I like that better.
And I mean, I figured, I kind of felt like they did that because she was obviously gonna throughout the season gonna come back around. That's one thing that kind of bothered me too. I know, like, even if it's a season 2, but it's part 2. You know, like it's one huge movie, and I feel like with 11 and how they did her character. And her arc, she had one too. You know, you didn't think she was going to have one, but it was like humanizing her. And when she was with Hopper, her only interaction and her only entertainment was television. Like, you know, that little TV. And there's a scene that I loved is when she was taking the screen from, or he was grounding her. It's like, you're grounded. And he tried to take the TV, and she's like keeping it on the ground. He can't lift it. I thought that was a great scene. Yeah. Because it was like, you know, Hopper's like this larger than life sheriff. You know, like he doesn't put up with anything, but he's got a good heart. Then you have 11, who at the same time, like when you see these characters, you're like, oh, they're kids. And they kind of sit back for a second, you're like, this kid was a murderer for a minute. You know, this kid probably needs to go through some therapy, but she's gifted, and that's what they illustrate in the show. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, personally, overall, I still stand by. I love this show, but there, like I said, I think there are still things you could criticize about something and still love it. Like I said, overall, I still stand on my 9.5. What about you guys?
Yeah, still a 9 out of 10. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would have to say first viewing 9 out of 10, but it'll probably once the series wrapped up, it's going to be just one big 10.
Yeah.
So
well. Thank you guys for joining us this episode. I hope you have a great week and trip to the movies. I'll see you next time.